Experience.
Welcome to the Pat Mayo Experience, presented by Underdog Fantasy. Use code Mayo at Underdog Fantasy right now and get yourself a first-time deposit match of up to $100, meaning deposit 100, get a free 100 to play along with. We'll be doing an Underdog entry a little bit later in the show for Thursday only. Plus, the Pat Mayo Experience Classic will drop as soon as the tee times are out. $20 to play, 3 max entry, no rake whatsoever. So hop in the draft lobby under PGA on Underdog Fantasy the moment the tee times come out, because I'll be there doing some drafts. I'll be doing 2 of mine tonight. I'll save the other one for Wednesday morning with Tambo on the DraftKings show, and we'll see if we can churn a profit on Underdog this week, because I play against you. You know who I'm drafting after you hear what I'm doing on the show, so you can just play that against me and go win all the monies. All right, Underdog Fantasy, code Mayo. Get yourself that first-time deposit match of up to $100. We're talking best bets for the Houston Open, the gold, silver, and bronze. 2 of the gold picks hit last week. Byron, the model maniac, is on the show. Sia Nejad is on the show as well to help me break this all down. I did not give you enough credit, Byron, last time. I said you went 1 for 3, but that was incorrect. I just assumed that Pavon did not beat Højgaard at the Players because I saw where Højgaard was. Yep. I saw where Pavon was. I was like, Pavon clearly lost. He didn't, though, did he?
The joys of matchups, Pat. I think my last 2 weeks I've had my guy miss the cut and still cash for me, which is exactly why we go to that bet, and it's exactly why we love it. I use that meme where, the guy's spraying champagne in his face at the top of the podium, and then he's all the way in 19th spot. But as long as Minwoo Lee was in 20th, that was going to be a good week for us. So very happy about that.
So, Sia, it's your first time on the Best Bet show, and you love head-to-head matchups. So this is geared for you.
It kind of is, yeah. I mean, honestly, head-to-head matchups and specifically round matchups, I'm a huge fan of. That's where, especially this year, but also last year, it's where most of my profit has come from. The tournament matchups, I would say probably not as profitable for me as the round matchups, but I mean, everybody knows it's the head-to-head matchup, sometimes the 3 balls. That's where you're going to make the consistent money in betting golf. It's
funny because I so rarely bet head-to-head matchups, but I have to give one every single week for my betting column in Golf Digest. I bet the top 10, I bet the outright, and the guys I'm going to fade, I clearly do that on DFS. But the head-to-head is just I'll do this one. I'm 11-2, and I haven't bet one yet.
Wow, there you go.
Yeah, just pick on the guy you're going to fade. It usually turns out really well if you're correct about that.
Mm-hmm. So that's exactly right.
So we'll see if we can get into it. Last week, I told people don't bet Cam Young outright. Bet him in the top 20 market at plus 150, and boom, he was a winner. If you followed along with the Best Bet show, Cam Young actually won you some money. The best bet for Joe was Adam Hadwin. Inside the top 40 at even money. That came through. Brad got swept, but he was in Vegas at the Circa all weekend for March Madness, so he still won at life, I suppose, despite going 0 for 3. I'll be there with Feinberg, Cody, and Paul and Joe Idone over Masters weekend at the Circa Stadium Swim. If you guys want to come hang, we'll be doing the Cut Sweat live show with all the screens by the pool. It's going to be amazing. So if you guys are in Vegas around that time, please come and hang. We're probably going to watch UFC 300 at the Stadium Swim as well, if that's more a place where you want to be. And we're on Mountain Time or Pacific Time. I don't know what Vegas is this time of year. Either way, it's not going to end at 3 o'clock in the morning like it does where I live. So that's just a big bonus in general anyway. Before we get into the picks, I wanted to talk about this Jonte Murray betting either on himself or getting friends to bet on him and his unders for the Toronto Raptors. He got caught, like DraftKings Sportsbook reported him. Obviously, the Ohtani thing's going on, but I think that's a bit of a different situation of what we're dealing with right now. And it's funny because we all work in gambling. There's been talk amongst people who don't, or people who don't gamble a lot. It's like, oh my God, the leagues are getting into bed with all these gambling companies. Of course, this is going to happen. My spin on it, Byron, is kind of the other way, because the Ohtani thing took an FBI raid because he's in California. You can't legally bet in California. That you had to use all these governmental resources with underground bookies to try to sniff this thing out. In the legal market, as it turns out, that the books will just report this stuff if it happens. I feel like this is a win for the sports books here, that, hey, we caught this. This is actually happening, and we are openly reporting it to make sure that this doesn't happen again. I feel like this is the huge difference between having legal and regulated sports books to try to protect the integrity of the game. Because if this guy is doing it with Steve from down the street, getting down a couple dimes on his under in-game, no one's ever going to find that out.
No, and the public isn't going to benefit from the taxes. It's not regulated, like you mentioned. It's not, protecting the integrity of the game. I think Sia can get into all of that as well once we get into the legalities of it all. But it's such a genius yet simplistic kind of method to kind of self-regulate, and they have all the tools that are simply just at their fingertips to kind of make sure this doesn't happen. And it kind of baffles my mind that these guys that have, I guess that's how they've made it there, like how you make it to the dance is how you leave kind of thing. And I think that's what's got these guys there, is this competitiveness, this kind of unhinged, off the rails kind of talent. And now they're betting on themselves as well, thinking that they're above all legalities. So yeah, a little bit weird there in my opinion, but it's not surprising. I'm happy that they're catching them though.
So Sia, can I throw you a conspiracy theory on this?
I love it. Go ahead.
All right. So just for entertainment purposes only, people. So my thinking goes, they see this Ohtani thing happen. Like, this is horrible for the sport. You have the biggest player, the most popular superstar. What are we going to do to him if this turns out to be, not on the up and up, and if it's not just isolated to his interpreter? If he is involved somehow with this, how do you punish him? Well, the NBA thinks, what if we take this guy who's on a two-way contract? He's not going to be in the NBA very long. What if we get him to do this? We'll pay him off hush money on the side to set an example so we can ban this guy for life so no one else ever tries to do this.
Well, so how does that affect, like, what's the conspiracy part as it relates to Ohtani, if anything?
Well, it's just, if LeBron gets caught doing this, then what the fuck do you do? But if it's Jonte Murray and you ban the guy for life, well, it's like, who cares? It's let's make an example of this guy. And now everyone knows this is the precedent that has been set.
Oh, that's interesting. I mean, yeah, that's a good conspiracy theory. Although I think it's, at the same time, I don't know that you need the conspiracy for it. I mean, I do think it's a lot easier to set an example for a guy that's on a 10-day contract or what have you, as opposed to like a regular player. But I mean, this is one of those situations where it's so easy to make an example out of this guy. So I mean, to your point, I think that's what they're going to end up doing. I like the front end of your sort of, it wasn't a conspiracy theory, but I like the front end of what you said in terms of how this relates to gambling, because I do think when you look at like across Twitter and social media platforms, you see a lot of like, oh, see, this is what we thought would happen with gambling. I mean, for the record, this has been happening well before gambling was regulated in the United States and in so many of these other places. So the reality is, if you have that regulatory body like a DraftKings or a FanDuel, like a self-regulatory body, you're going to be able to catch these things. And I just think that's not even a spin that you're putting on it. Like, that is like actual facts. That's actual reality. So I love what you just said there, because I think you're going to see a lot of pushback in some of these like state governments and in Congress, like over the next, few months, maybe few years, where it's like, see, we told you this is getting out of hand. This is dangerous. And the truth is, when it comes to these types of subjects, what you want is actual legal gambling so we can actually catch it instead of just not know what's going on.
Yeah, to spin my conspiracy a little bit more here of why the NBA may have set this up to have this guy as sort of like a patsy to end up suspending him and set this precedent, Byron, is if I was trying to get money down on Jonte Murray unders and the first one hit at my max bet, I would have been limited immediately. But that didn't happen here.
That's also, Pat, we're learning all the rules, the house rules of these sports books and how they are applicable to specific situations. I was doing a live stream where someone was looking in Iowa at a completely different number than I was on the same exact book, on the same exact outright. They have these things different for different people. And it kind of blows my mind that they never did that. And it was like, how is that not caught right after the first situation? But also, Sia was mentioning how it needs to be legal across everywhere. The taxes. I mean, 99% of people lose their money. How is this not like, how are we not overly like invested in this thing? Like, why does the government not want all this tax revenue? It's going to be free money for them to take care of all the stuff that they don't take care of already now. But, at least they'll have more of it to do that with.
Well, you're in the DC area, Sia. I mean, even if they got the extra money, they'd still just waste it anyway, I'm sure.
I mean, yeah, it's just such a sad state of affairs. The infighting that goes on here, but you see it nationally. I mean, you see it, I guess, in I'm probably not in Canada as much, actually, now that I think about it. But yeah, in terms of resource allocation, We don't know where that's going to go. But to Byron's point, a lot of times, you're going to get that money to infrastructure and schools, and like, lottery money, for example, usually goes to schools and education and things of that nature. So yeah, there's a lot of revenue that these states can enjoy if they just kind of buy in. And fortunately, we've got, I think we're in like the 36 to 37 states in the United States that actually, have bought in, have legalized gambling, and the other ones will tumble too when they see all the revenue going to all of those other states.
Yeah, and if you are in a state that hasn't yet to legalize sportsbook betting, I suggest you get on Underdog, because you can still play the fantasy pick'ems that are up there in a lot of these places like Texas or California, and you can use code Mayo, double your money right away. Like, it's funny that we can tell, like, we're talking about this. It, like, obviously all three of us are involved in gambling, either by sponsorship or something that we do all the time. Like, say you host a show on TV every single day. I host a show on YouTube and podcasts every single day. Byron, you're doing the same thing over at Rotoballer. So we're insulated in the business a little bit too. And so it makes it, people will say it's hypocritical to talk about this kind of thing. But I think that, you can live in the reality that we live in, where the sponsorship money, it's not like the sponsorship money is going away. And that was kind of my entire point on the entire thing. And Sia, you kind of hit the big thing that this has been happening forever. It just was never caught. You don't think there was point shaving going on at like mid-major D2 college basketball and games that no one was watching? Like, those are the easiest ones to do because no one was paying attention.
Well, it's you can't catch it, right? If it's like some offsite, like Intertops, or like there's some of these that have been around for like bookmakers, in international waters that have been around for so long, they have no incentive to report these things. Why would they? They might cut off the bettor because they see something fishy, but they don't really have any incentive to report them. But DraftKings, FanDuel, whatever the sports book is, BetMGM, name it, they're going to have incentive to report these things. And so, as opposed to simply just cut off the bettor. So this is like, I just love how you put that, because I haven't really put much thought into all of these controversies that are now kind of emerging with Ohtani and Murray, and there's going to be many more, I'm sure. And there've been many that have preceded it over the last year or two. But the fact is, you're so right. It is actually a good thing to have legalized betting, so we can actually catch these people, make examples out of them, and set a precedent that it's not going to happen again.
Byron, just for pure optics, how much, I don't want to say better does it look, but I mean, as opposed to what is actually happening in reality right now with this guy, that if he had bet on the overs of himself versus the unders on himself?
Ooh, yeah. I mean, the overs is impossible, right? That's one of the hardest things to take care of business, unless you're just catching all these random stray assists. But I think you're spot on there, Pat. I mean, it's the best setup. It was the easiest to take care of. So yeah, very bad. Not good.
And see, this is the first time that we've seen this, that we know about, at least. The first time someone has been caught betting on basically either themselves or getting friends to bet on themselves. Like when Calvin Ridley was caught when he played for the Falcons, I think he did have like the Falcons in a parlay. Like, he wasn't a part of the team then. He was out for the season. He was just sitting at home doing nothing. Not to say that he wouldn't have inside info. And, he got his suspension. He paid his penalty. But it's not like Calvin Ridley under 46.5 receiving yards. That's what he was betting. So that's a little bit different. When Jameson Williams and the guys on the Lions, and I believe the guys on the Colts, ended up getting caught this year, they were just betting inside NFL facilities, which was the illegal part of it. They weren't betting on football. I believe they were betting on college basketball. So this one is completely different, at least in my mind. This is the first since gambling has been legal in all of these places and regulated. This is the first time someone's been caught doing this specific thing, which is why I think it's more of a story than anything else.
At a professional level, that's true. I seem to recall a few weeks ago, there was a kind of a smaller level college basketball school where the line, I can't remember, but it was Temple. I don't want to throw a school under the bus. It might not have been Temple, actually. So I'm just going to retract that. But it was a two low level schools, like a low market team, if you will, in college basketball, like not even a mid major. And the line went from like -2 to -8 for some sharp action, a game that shouldn't have been getting that much attention. And what you saw with the score outcome was, not only did that team that got steamed up to -8 cover, they covered by like 30. And the really interesting part about the cover, and I don't know the details of the investigation, I believe it's still pending, but what's interesting about what happened in the game is that the team that was apparently like shaving points or like kind of on the hook here for the illegal activity was giving up buckets on defense. And that's like a really easy way to kind of shade the line. It's not like missing shots necessarily. It's just like playing Olay defense and letting your guy get by you. That's a lot harder or easier to disguise than it would be like actual volitional things like making shots or getting rebounds where you can kind of zero in on that. But if you're just late to stepping or to somebody's first step going to the hole, it's very easy to disguise that. So I just think there's really interesting ways, and this did come up a few weeks ago with that college basketball game, interesting ways to actually, do this and do it in more of a sneaky way. But again, they got flagged because this line should not have been, shot up 6 points. And then the results kind of ratified the fact that something fishy was going on.
All right. Let's jump into golf. Let's get to the gold picks. That's what the people are here for. You can always use the time codes. I probably should have said that before we started going into that. But it's something that I wanted to talk about because I thought it was pretty interesting. My gold pick for the Houston Open this week is going to be a guy that I bet on to win the tournament at 22-1. But this is the best bet show. We're looking for ones that can be sustainable in an ecosystem. This one's minus 110. It is Will Zalatoris to finish inside the top 20, Byron.
Boom. Boom. Love it, Pat. Just simple, methodic, love the course fit. I'm a big fan of going into those negatives with these kind of bets, especially if it makes sense. So you've got my full endorsement there, Pat. I think I was taking a shower the other day and thinking, Willie Z's like agent or course planner, or I guess he does the Decade Golf with Scott Fawcett. So they've figured out exactly which courses he needs to play, and he's been playing all the right courses. It wasn't at the Valspar last week, which is like a little more dinky dunky. I think he's played all these big boy tournaments that are setting him up perfect for the Masters. I'm kind of curious if he wins before the Masters or not. I'm kind of almost made it up in my head that he's gonna, because I got a 50-1 outright on him there. But I love that. I love this course fit. I love how he's playing. I mean, plus money, even money for a top 20 is perfect.
Yeah, it's one of the same reasons that I ended up on Cameron Young in the similar market last week, Sia. Mainly because he plays long. I mean, Valspar, for what the yardage says, at just over 7,300 yards, it is a par 71. It is a longer course than I think that people give it credit for. And this one, obviously, being almost 7,500 yards and a par 70 is super long. That both Zalatoris and Cameron Young just play long, hard courses really well. When you don't have to be minus 24 to win a tournament, that maybe you can be minus 12, you'd have to think that that is the optimal setup for Will Zalatoris to either get a win or be contending on that leaderboard. Because as Byron pointed out, Riv, Bay Hill, they are more in the ilk of Memorial Park than Honda or the Players is.
Yeah, and obviously, a missed cut at the Players didn't serve him well. But I do agree with the analysis. You're kind of opening up old wounds for me, fresh wounds, I should say, because, by the way, you've brought up Cameron Young's name twice. I had him outright. And just so you know, I just want you all to picture this. So I'm watching it, and he's heading to the 18th, and we had Malnati hit it into the rough on 17, I believe. And I didn't know, they went to commercial. I didn't know that he was going to get relief. And so I'm looking at the live odds, and Cameron Young right before that was minus 400. But whatever Malnati was probably plus 270 or something. It wasn't a good enough hedge opportunity in my mind. So I just kind of waited, and I was like, all right, looks like Cameron Young has got this. And then all of a sudden, the odds went away, and they froze. And then I saw the relief get granted, and then I saw what he did to put it 4 feet from the hole, and I was just so discouraged because, again, at the same time, Cameron Young puts it basically in the street or in the woods on his tee shot on 18. So the analysis though was on point because, again, I had Cameron Young outright last week, but the same analysis applied here with Will Zalatoris. So I think it's a great play. Listen, I've been on Will Zalatoris over the last few weeks. I was really nervous in the beginning of the year because I thought that back injury was definitely going to be a thing, and we know feels like he sort of modified his swing. Maybe he's not getting as much distance off the tee, but the ball striking, the long iron play, it checks all the boxes. He doesn't have any history here. I really don't think that matters at the Houston Open at Memorial Park personally. I like this. I like this play quite a bit.
Yeah. So nothing fancy for the gold pick, but I just want to try to get a winner here. So minus 110 for Will Zalatoris, top 20. Sia, what you need to do is log on to fantasynational.com right now, click on the banner at the top of the screen, and it will give you access to the brand new leaderboard app that we have developed. That is awesome and is now available for both iPhone and Android in the test version as well. So you're never going to have to just be staring at odds to see what happens. You can actually just use that leaderboard, but it's only for Fantasy National members right now. So fantasynational.com/Mayo will get you 20% off. It'll get you all the tools, all the stats, the lineup generator, the simulator, everything like that. But it does give you access that no one else has right now to that leaderboard. And frankly, Sia, I would just pay for a good app leaderboard. So, I worked on developing one myself, and now I can charge for it.
I love that. If you're suggesting I could have potentially saved a little bit of money via a hedge opportunity or something else, otherwise, last week or last Sunday, I'm in because I probably needed that.
Yeah, Byron, I need you to get in there this week, test out the leaderboard, and you let me know because we're still in test, so we're still taking notes on it to make sure that it's perfect for when we do release it to the public. But you got to get in there, and maybe your gold pick can help pay for it.
I will hope for the best because that's going to need to happen this week, especially after going, 2-1. Pat, I was quite proud of that after the beating I took 0-3 to start off with. But it's so funny. The year is 2024. We don't have a pristine golf app, so I'm just going to build one for myself real quick. This is the world we live in. So props to you, Pat.
Very cool.
The world is at your fingertips and you can make it what you want. So speaking of at your fingertips and not necessarily making it what you want, it's these Nordic golfers. And I wasn't expecting on this kind of bet, especially as my gold bet, but I was taking a peek at what Alex Noren's been up to the last little while.
Oh, God.
He's been extremely consistent, right? Now, I took him as the top Nordic guy over here at FanDuel, and he's plus 160. The rest are like plus 300. It's Thorbjorn Olsen, Alex B. York, Vincent Norman, Henrik Norlander, and Chris Ventura. So he's got to beat all those guys at plus 160. Ollison hasn't really converted since coming from DP World Tour. Alexander Bjork might be making cuts, but not necessarily finishing above Noren when he does. Vincent Norman, not the best golfer in the world. Neither's Norlander and Ventura. I mean, the guy's got a better chance of starring in
Vince Norman won
ace than
Vince Norman won twice last year. Alex Noren didn't.
Yeah, this is different though, Pat. This is the Valero. This ain't the Hot Rod 100 alternate event, that goes on when we're all watching other tournaments. But, props to Chris. He's obviously played some good golf. Sorry, we were talking about Norman. Same thing, just, I don't know about how he's playing right now, but Noren can take care of business for me at plus 160. Top Nordic.
All right, top Nordic, plus 160. Noren, Sia, was a part of Jeff and I's Wheel of Losers that we do every single week, that there's just this range of players this week that are there's 5 of them, and their odds are stupid. Like, who would ever bet them at these odds? Maybe they end up winning, and you end up winning money. I'm not saying I know who's going to win, and I don't, but when I see Alex Noren 30-1, it's like, yeah, no thanks. I'll pass on that one.
Yeah, I mean, that's why probably if you're going to look for Alex Noren, you look for him in a different way, like a nationality prop. But yeah, I mean, his finishing position last year was like kind of curious. I mean, I understand why he's a good course fit. The around the green game is definitely gonna benefit him. Let's see what he does with the ball striking off the tee. I think he's a really interesting case study in terms of how some of these shorter hitters can play Memorial Park. My gold pick, if that's where we're going now, is I'm going to go with Steven Jaeger in a tournament 3-ball. He's plus 145 over Thorbjorn Olsen and Cam Davis. I'll address the Cam Davis part of this first. I don't know what's going on. Maybe you guys have some info there, but it doesn't look very good. And I don't expect him to find his form so much in this tournament 3-ball that he's going to surpass Steven Jaeger. So to me, I'm not saying Cam Davis can't somehow emerge, but I'm not counting on it. Like, this is a big fade for me, even though he's a good course fit. It's a big fade for me on Cam Davis. It's Thorbjorn Olsen that I'm probably a little bit more worried about, but while Olsen's really good, he can be good with the short game around the green, but he's really good on approach. His game hasn't translated that well from the Euro Tour coming over to the PGA Tour. And for the record, off the tee, he doesn't have what Steven Jaeger has, particularly from a length standpoint, from a driving distance standpoint. So I really like how Steven Jaeger measures out over Olsen. The problem with Jaeger is, of course, the putting. I think these greens, as long as you're good on approach and you're somewhat close to the pin, I think these greens are going to be relatively easy to putt on. Jaeger's lost putting 5 out of his last 6, but what he's done in those last 6 is he's managed to tied for 3rd finishes. So he's figuring out a way to finish in the top 5, notwithstanding a bad putter. So Jaeger at plus 145 over 2 guys that I'm likely fading in DFS and across most markets, Olsen and Cam Davis. I really like the price on that tournament 3-ball.
All right, let's get into the underdog plays for Thursday. We're going to try to do them up quickly here because there are no rival head-to-head matchups out as of yet. Is there anyone that particularly, Sia or Byron, both of you can chime in on this, that you'd either want to play on or play against in round 1? And that can give us a good starting point.
Ooh. You're just going to open up the whole slate to us, yeah?
Well, we only have so many people. There's like 24 people. So Cam Davis is a player that like you hate this week, right, Sia?
That's correct. Yeah, I'm happy to fade Cam Davis.
So here are our options. We can go higher or lower than even par, so 70 strokes. We can go higher on 3.5 birdies or better. We probably don't want to do that. 3 or more, higher or lower, 3 or more bogeys or worse. Does that sound pretty good to you?
I kind of like the bogey play. I like the over 70, but the bogey play is my favorite.
So, but you get a push on 3, so it has to be 4 for a win.
That's a lot of bogeys.
That is a lot of bogeys.
It's one of those things too, where it does help to have tee times and things of that nature when you're making a bet like that, because wind conditions and stuff like that. But I would actually lean to the over of it was 70 was the number, right? So just over par. I'd lean to over par on Cameron Davis.
See, I can get behind that. Higher than 70, round 1 for Cam Davis. What do you think, Byron?
Yeah, Cam's a scrappy guy. He comes together as the week unfolds. I'm down.
Okay, and just looking at the weather, there doesn't seem to be a distinct split at all on Thursday. Thursday does look like it presents the best scoring conditions of the week, however, if that's a way that you wanted to play it. So one more we can add to this. I mean, we can add up to 5 if we really want to. You like Noren, Byron. You like Hoagie. Do we go Hoagie? 3 or more birdies or better, and you get a multiplier on that. That's a hot pepper if you can do that.
Yeah. I love the volatility of the Hoagie. Get to 4 birdies, he's probably going to shoot 71 doing it. So sign me up for that. I can see it definitely happening.
Okay, there we go. Let's make this one an easy one for Thursday. Use code Mayo at Underdog Fantasy right now. Get your match deposit of up to $100. So deposit 100, get another 100, then take that other 100 and throw it on this, or take 50 and throw it on this. It pays out 3.53. So 100 will pay you $353. That is going to be the official play of the Pat Mayo Experience Best Bet Show for Thursday at the Houston Open. Once again, code Mayo at UnderdogFantasy.com to get that match deposit of up to $100. Silver selections for Houston. We're not going to play, what the hell is this dude's name? The guy that Baroff told me to bet over at the Hero India Open. It's like,
oh my God,
Ganges at 400 to 1. Me and Jeff are highly invested in this now. We win like 12 grand if he ends up winning. So let's go that guy. So I'm going to leave him out of the picks right now. But for silver, I'm going to take a guy that I said that I was going to bet once we got to Texas. I'm actually shocked at where he has progressed with his game so far, because I didn't expect him to be as good. So we're going to dip our toes into the water. I did bet him outright. So when the newsletter comes out on Mayo Media Substack on Wednesday night, you will see like one, I think it's 50 to 1 with 8 places next to his name. Because, yeah, you got to take some long shots. They win every single week. But I'm just going to try to play this one a little bit easier, and I'm going to get somewhat greedy here, Byron. I'm going to take Bud Cauley plus 250 to finish inside the top 30.
Yes. For the longest time, I thought you were talking about Ryan Palmer there for a second,
No.
but I will go with Bud Cauley. The guy's got that situation where it gets to the weekend, he gets a little antsy, but again, he hasn't played too many tournaments. Plus 250 for a top 30 pad, I think, is very nice. I think we could definitely see him just floating into the top 10 entering the weekend and then kind of drifting back to 25th as the week unfolds. So love that. He's obviously a Texas boy, as you're inferring there. I think, the game is there. It's just he needs to feel that feeling when he's in the mix again. Because, I mean, wow, he was, right in the mix the week after the Waste Management as well. I mean, almost won that tournament, the Cognizant, right? So, yeah. I mean, he's playing good golf. He just needs to get back in the groove. So top 30 at plus 250 is delightful. I'm going to have to ramp up mine to take care of business there. But yeah, can't go wrong with that bet.
Yeah, I almost went with the top 40 Sia at plus 160, and I got screwed so mightily. I didn't get screwed, but I had Grayson Sigg top 40 as my bronze play last week, and he missed like a 3-foot putt on the second to last hole to not come inside the top 40. So that's always fun. I mean, that's what the leaderboard is really good for. It's like, oh, I'm sweating Grayson Sigg here. It's like, oh God, how did this happen? How did 2 feet, 9 inches to the hole, miss, drops from 37th to 45th, and you don't win your bet. That's golf betting though, isn't it?
I mean, it is. I mean, speaking of cut sweats, I mean, this wasn't a cut sweat. This was just a top 40 sweat on Sunday, but I had Sam Burns in what was likely going to be a very good 6 for 6 if he made the cut. And what was he lining up? Like it was probably a 5 to 6 footer on 18, and he missed it. Wasn't even really that close in my opinion. And he, again, with like a correct me if I'm wrong, but I think the 6 for 6 last week was like in that 2% range. So if I get that 6 for 6 with a lot of kind of under the radar guys, I'm looking real good. So yeah, I mean, just golf is frustrating on so many levels. The beauty of it though is it's like a 4-day sweat, and if you mess up on day 1, you've got so many more options to bet or play showdown in day 2, day 3, day 4. I mean, that's why I love golf. Sorry about the tangent. PGA DFS to me is the best DFS like out there. And that includes NFL, you name the sport. And it's for those reasons I just mentioned. It's so frustrating, especially on a Thursday morning when your guy starts +3, but you can make up for it. You got 4 days to like contemplate bets in DFS.
Yeah, I had one of the best 5 of 6 lineups in the $20 last week. I was actually winning the $20 for a while, but I had Brian Herman in that lineup, Byron. So if I had just picked anyone else who made the cut, I probably would have been inside the top 10. I cashed with a 3 of 6 lineup in the big 250. It was crazy.
Wow.
Jeez. Who were your 3 guys?
I had, who was it? It was Xander, Mitchell. No, it wasn't Mitchell because Mitchell ended up tanking. It was because Mitchell tanked, I got into the money is what ended up happening. Nice. I had, Jesus, who was it? It was,
it's not a big deal.
Xander, Hadwin,
Cam Young,
and Cam Young was the other one.
Okay.
And then 3 scrubs who missed the cut.
6. That's insane, man. That was a lot of chalk that missed the cut last week. And then obviously Xander was looking like he was also going to basically be a non-plus. And then out of nowhere, just like, da-da-da-da, look at me, folks. I'm inside the top 5 on a Sunday, like,
unbelievable.
So
we're such a classic Xander move.
Yeah. Where are you going with your silver pick, Byron?
Oh, sorry. I'll kind of piggyback off of Sia here and ride the Jaeger train. I'm going to just go with the top 40 for Jaeger. The guy's just been absolutely crushing the top 40s. I'm going to go -150. I'll jump back to +180 for my bronze. But at a -150 for a top 40, Jaeger's been doing this at a ridiculous clip over the last little while. I'm going to keep riding this train. I've bet him the last 3 times. He's missed 2 cuts in the 45th or something. So it's go time for Jaeger. He's been driving the ball far too well to kind of, avoid, doubling down on what Sia said. But I feel like this course finally rewards him for how good of a driver he is. He's so good out the rough from far. 150 and out. He's amazing out the rough. Very good around the greens. We'll see what happens with the putter, But that's why at -150 plus top 40, the putter can still lose 2-3 strokes, and the ball striking tee to green game can carry him into, the top 30 there anyway.
So does that mean you're going to piggyback on Noren now that he piggybacked on your gold pick, Sia?
Well, no, but I am going to piggyback on his gold pick in the sense that I'm going with a nationality prop. So we are kind of in tandem here. I'm going top Oceania, which is basically Australia and New Zealand, effectively. And I've got in that market, I've got Jason Day at +130. He's the favorite, as you might expect, over, again, Cam Davis, who, if he has a great tournament, I'm in trouble. Ryan Fox, Aaron Baddeley, Harrison Endicott, Ryan Gibson. So again, I don't think I'm not a big Jason Day guy, but I got to admit the metrics look pretty good. Recent form looks good enough, and his history here is good. I mean, he's got, he's made 3 cuts in a row. Again, this is only the 4th derivation at Memorial Park. He's made all 3 cuts, and he's got some pretty solid finishes. I like the state of his game overall, and I especially like it when we contrast it with, again, Cameron Davis, who we already talked about. Ryan Fox, listen, I just said about Cameron Davis, kind of like a head shake. Like if you're watching this on YouTube, I'm like, I don't know what's going on with Cameron Davis. Well, I certainly don't know what's going on with Ryan Fox. Again, puts sunglasses advisory. It's like bright red on Ryan Fox across the metrics. Aaron Baddeley has actually shown up lately, but again, I just don't think he's the caliber of Jason Day. And then Harrison Endicott, Ryan Gibson, I don't really expect them to make the cut. And I could probably say the same for the other 3. So again, I like Jason Day at +130. I just love the plus money. This is a much higher caliber guy. He does have to contend with 5 people, but truly, in my opinion, it's really only 3 people, and 2 of those 3 are in very, very bad form. So I'll go ahead and take the plus money there.
Ryan Fox is interesting because I like him in the major season best ball drafts on Underdog because he is in the Masters and he is in the PGA Championship. So if he plays crappy in the first 2, well, my team's probably not advancing anyway. But he is a player that catches lightning in a bottle. Like, he'll just be terrible. So once he has like 1 good result, that's the time to jump on Ryan Fox because he'll have like 4 in a row.
I totally agree. And just real quick, I mean, I'll admit that Ryan Fox and Cameron Davis, this could be the course for them where like they start to pick it up. I do think they're pretty good course fits here. But again, the state of their game is so bad that even if they pick it up a little bit, I don't think it's enough to beat Jason Day.
Yeah, I've been contemplating, like the metrics on Day don't actually look all that great either because his approach has been so putrid over his past 2 tournaments. He's only gained in 1 of his 8 rounds on approach, but I was still thinking about betting him at this tournament. Like I'm trying to think about the guys that can actually race down Scotty. If Scotty has his A game, Scotty's going to win. This we know. But if he just shows up with his B game, who are the players in the field with their A game that can beat him? And I just think about a difficult course, 10-foot par saves, getting it up and down from some bizarro lie. Like, Byron, doesn't Jason Day kind of fit that mold? And he's won in Texas a bunch of times in his career.
Facts. He loves Texas as much as he loves California, in my opinion. And I mean, he's had 2 weeks now to relax. We all know Jason Day needs his beauty sleep. I mean, we came in off that Byron Nelson W. I bet him at the PGA Championship and apparently just did not have enough recuperation time. So I love Jason Day off of breaks. I think that's the way to play him as well. So yeah, he's a top tier talent when he's feeling it.
That's interesting. Jason Day after breaks.
Mm-hmm.
Now I have to go. Now I have to go deep dive this. It's almost like
wormhole.
It's like Louis and his traveling bed that has to go with him.
Exactly.
Sia, bronze pick for you, sir.
All right, we're gonna go with. Did you mention the top 20 market, but with Zalatoris, and it reminded me. So now I'm piggybacking off one of your picks. I'm going with Sahith Theegala at top 20. I mean, again, I think this is a popular player. He's a guy that I think people think can actually win this tournament. I tend to agree, but I'm getting plus 100 on Theegala at top 20, and that's just like the perfect zone for me to get even money for a guy that even if he's the type of player, kind of like what Xander did on Sunday. He's the type of player where he could like start off slowly, make the cut, and then all of a sudden on Saturday or Sunday, he just absolutely explodes in a good way and backdoors a top 10, if not a top 20. So I don't want to say a golf bet is ever safe because there's truly no such thing. But Theegala seems like a pretty good course fit. Again, if we always talk about Theegala, we're not sure about his consistency off the tee, although probably getting a little bit better. But short game, ball striking, course fit, checks a lot of the boxes. So I expect him to firmly be inside the top 20.
Yeah, I like the course fit for Theegala because I think, Byron, you can spray the ball around here off the tee a little bit, which brings a lot of some of the normal type guys that maybe we don't like at certain courses way back into play. And green regulation percentage way down at this course, driving accuracy way down at this course. It's a longer course, so distance is going to matter as long as you have that touch around the greens. That's kind of exactly what he does.
Yeah, he's got all of that except for the driving, but the driving is actually moving in the right direction. The guy's figuring out the drive, and I kind of like him on these bit more spacious courses too. So let's see what he can get up to, man. There's so much to love about him. So much to love about him this week.
Who do you like as your bronze pick?
My guy is going to be the best ball striker from an iron perspective in the golf field, and his name is Tom Hoge for a top 20 at plus 180. The guy has just been a top 20 magnet lately. I know, the players didn't quite work out as well as we expected, but, finished 12th at the API, 28th at the Cognizant. Prior to that, he was just rattling off top 20s like crazy. The iron play for this guy is just, when Scotty Scheffler's doing what he's doing right now on the ball striking front, and he's not the best iron player in the field because Tom Hoge is, I can't not bet on that guy at a golf course like this that is really just going to reward such good long iron play so much better than the majority of other courses. He is phenomenal with a long iron in his hand, with the mid iron. The short game's to be desired, but he's been putting better lately too. Plus 180 for a top 20 Tom Hoge. Let's go Frogs. Let's go ball striking bonanza, baby. I think, the irons can easily take him to the promised land there.
So I have a couple that I wanted to run through. One because I know that you do all the research on this, Byron, about who actually is profitable in certain markets. I would have to guess that Bhatia in the top 20 market has been amazing so far this season because he either finishes inside the top 20 or misses the cut.
That's a good question. I will look it up for you in the meantime. But till then, you're going to have to do some other stuff for me because
yeah, well, here's the
off
case.
the top of my head, I want to say no.
Here's the case for him, and it might be a case against him as well. Maybe he ends up missing the cut because he does that an awful lot. Like he came into Valspar with 3 consecutive missed cuts, all 3 tournaments, Phoenix, Honda, and the Players. He dropped putting in all of those, ended up missing the cut. He gained 3.6 at the Valspar, 4.8 at the Century, and 4.8 at the Farmers. He finished inside the top 20 of those. He gained a stroke at Sony. He finished inside the top 20 of that. He lost on the greens at the American Express. It's essentially a coin flip of whether he's going to bleed a bunch of strokes on the green or have just a great putting week. Every time that he has a positive putting week, no matter how minuscule or large it is, he finishes inside the top 20. So I guess you need to be able to read whether or not Bhatia likes these greens or not.
Are they past Padam? I mean, it's Texas. I would say Florida would be the closest to what he loves on those resort courses, but we'll see what he can get up to. And to answer your question over the last 12 months, Pat, he hasn't necessarily done the greatest. He hasn't returned you any money in any market, top 5, top 10, top 20, but top 20 has been the closest. So it would have lost you just the least amount at $26. So basically breaking even for you there. So yeah, but that's the last 12 months. I'd have to fiddle with some numbers to figure out this year, but it sounds like this year would have been good for him too.
He's finished.
And the putter.
He's finished inside the top 26 of his past 11 events. And only once of any of those did he not miss the cut. That was at the RSM. He just came a very casual 38th. So I was thinking about that. Sia, I want to ask you about Keith Mitchell. Does he get it back together, or is he officially off the rails after that terrible round, being in contention? His ball striking had been so supreme, and he lost it with the driver, and he lost it with the irons a little bit as well in round 4. Does he just shake that off, come back, and he's normal Keith Mitchell again, or do you think we're going to get some residue here?
Yeah, I thought he was going to crumble a little bit, which is why I was kind of confident in my Cam Young play on Sunday. With that said, I'm not really worried about the ball striking, but if you're one of the people, and there's a lot of them, including me, that if you and by the way, I tend to wait around the green play a little less than most people, but this is a course that's going to lend itself to that short game prowess, specifically scrambling around the green. And Mitchell just does not check that box. So it's just one of those things where I don't necessarily think this is the greatest course for him. That doesn't mean he can't win it if he's just completely dialed in with the ball striking. But I have no interest in betting his outright number, if that's what you're asking.
Well, he's 2-1 to miss the cut, is why I bring this up. And we know, you said, like, hey, some guys can get off to a +3 start here, and, they can always rally themselves back. There's a lot of guys that get out to +3, +4 starts at this course. And if it starts going off the rails for him early, maybe he can ball strike his way back into it and hit everything to 10 feet. But that's not really this type of course. Like, even Valspar, you can make a ton of birdies at Valspar. Like, that's not really the problem. It's holding it together and avoiding the really big numbers or bogey trains. Yeah. Bogey trains are prevalent at Memorial. So I don't know. I'm kind of digging that one. Like, if he comes out with a bad round 1, and maybe that's the way that I'm going to end up playing it. Maybe I'll do like a Keith Mitchell, fade him round 1 underdog, that kind of thing, and maybe not go that way. The other 2 names that I did want to throw at you is Andrew Novak, a top 20 right now, or top 30 on Andrew Novak, pays +170. Top 20 would be even better, obviously. And then Chris Gotterup, top 30 finish, +225 Sia. Obviously, he hasn't been great, but this is the type of course where he could play really well. Just bombs away, chip it around, Texas wedge it. It's kind of perfect for him.
Yeah, and Gotterup has flashed here and there, and maybe not for 4. Like, to me, Gotterup is a perfect showdown play. I don't know that he can sustain it over 4 rounds, but you had me at Andrew Novak. I mean, I absolutely love this guy, and I think most people do. I don't think I'm like coming out of the woodwork with, hey, this Andrew Novak guy's really good, but he's actually really good. I had 3 top 30s last week. I hit 2 of them, and the main one that I was really happy about was Andrew Novak at +220. I mean, this guy is just really crushing it, and he rates out pretty well. Like, no history on this course, but when I ran like the weighted tee to green stuff and weighted approach, things of that nature, not a super long hitter, but also not super short. So I think he's right in that sort of middle zone where he's long enough to be good out here. Love Andrew Novak.
Yeah, he's gained on the field with distance in basically every start that he's had. He's actually dialed that back a little bit and doesn't hit as many fairways, but his good drives have gone off the charts during this amazing run that he's had, where he's had 3 top 10s in 5 starts, 4 top 20s in 5 starts. I don't know if he's going to break through and get a win, Byron, but I was just going to be pensive and play the top 30 market. Should I be playing the top 20 market here at like plus 300 or whatever it is?
I mean, if you're betting both, I wouldn't be, just try win half a unit on each. I think you can stack them nicely, especially with the way the odds are kind of presenting themselves to you. You don't have to go too crazy there. He's obviously got upside, and he's obviously got upside in these fields that aren't necessarily the biggest. I don't know if the players is just the players or if it was a bigger tournament. You're going to be wanting to play Andrew Novak for the foreseeable future, going forward. Too good of a golfer to kind of pass up at that price, no matter which market you bet him in, Pat. I think, you're getting lots of plus money all the way up to almost the top 40, right?
Yeah, so let's, even the top 40 is plus 110 right now on Andrew Novak. But I'll get greedy. I'll take the top 20 at plus 280. And maybe I'll try to ladder that one up a little bit. I have to give a special shout out to the president of Novak Nation, Paul Shaughnessy, behind the camera. This is his guy. And I kind of like what you said about the strength of field, because we saw this last year with Sam Stevens a lot, who has played well at this course. And anytime that you would look at who has the best strokes gained, just total, on courses that are over 7,400 yards, like Sam Stevens for a year was the guy who popped up into that because he would play Puerto Rico, he would play Punta Cana, these longer courses against weaker fields. Matt Wallace is another one that just loves playing against shit fields and does really well in them. Maybe Novak is becoming one of those guys.
It's looking like it. It really is. I mean, he rattled off all those top 10s in really bad fields and then missed the cut to players. Just to me, small sample size, it screams that to me, though.
How do you feel about my Mitchell 2-1 to miss the cut? Are you in on that at all?
That's a good question, because I can see him coming out grumpy and moody as balls, and just dominating again until he doesn't. Or I can see him just getting off his bender tomorrow and just, signing himself up for the tournament and just like slothing his way around and missing the cut, Pat. I can see it both ways, because that was humiliating, man. That was a humiliating round of golf, in my opinion. And I don't know. I don't know how I would show up. I don't know how Keith's going to show up, but 2-1 to miss the cut's not the worst number in the world.
Well, the other one,
I like it.
I know that Hoagie was your top 20 pick in your bronze selection, Byron. Like, I can envision a world where he misses the cut too. Like, if the irons don't show up to the level that they've shown up, and he's not hitting as many greens in regulation, he's sort of like, Carson Young is just because I bet on Carson Young so much that I just vividly experience it. But every time Hoagie misses a green in regulation, it's bogey at least.
Facts. Unless he holds like a 22-footer. That's just kind of, I follow his shot tracker guy on there. One of the most vanilla dudes in the world. Does not want to interact with anyone, but does a great job kind of doing what I don't want to do on the app. But now that I got Fantasy National, I will be doing my own shot tracking. But Tom Hoagie, one of those guys, you don't want to bet him top 40, because when he's finishing inside the top 40, he's basically doing it at top 20 as well. That's just how he does it. He's like boom or bust.
Yeah, I like the play on the boom, and the bust for me wouldn't be, to target him in a head-to-head. It'd be like, plus 175 to miss the cut, because I can see a world where he either finishes fifth or comes dead last because things aren't going right. Like, just that was it the third round of the Players, or was it the final round of the Players where things just got off the rails for him?
This year?
Yeah.
I don't know. I was so disappointed in everybody. I couldn't quite keep track of him, but yeah, that's the thing. It doesn't matter, Pat. It's going to come off the rails at one point. That's even as the best iron player in the world. It's just, if it gets a little too tense, he's going to suck it up.
Well, I'll have my final outright selections both in the newsletter and on the DraftKings Pick Show with Tambo on Wednesday, but nothing has really changed, really, from what I've done on Monday. I got Zalatoris at 22, Luke List at 66 with 5 places, and then Tyson Alexander at 250 with 8 places, Bud Cauley at 150 with 8 places. What were you looking at for outright so far this week, Sia?
So here's the thing. I really want to bet. This is rare for me, but I really want to bet with the without Scotty Scheffler market, just taking him completely out of it. So I've only made a couple of bets because one of the books I play doesn't have that market out yet. Shame on you. But so far it's just been Kurt Kitayama, which I believe I got at 55-1. And I bet Wyndham Clark, but I bet him at, I think, 14-1, but I'm actually waiting for that without Scotty Scheffler market to come out where I'm probably going to hit him again. And it's 11-10-1 without Scotty on Wyndham Clark. So far I've only got 2. I'll probably add a few more today. It's Kurt Kitayama. It's Wyndham Clark.
Here's the thing, and I'd be curious about this, Byron, because you'll run more of these probabilities. Like, I'm seeing the probability right now in the Fantasy National Simulator of Scotty winning at around 18% of this tournament. And I had the similar idea that Sia had on Monday, and I really started to think about it. Do I actually want to bet the market without Scheffler? Because like hitting a golf winner is tough enough as it is. And you get a better price on everyone if Scheffler just doesn't win. And yeah, he's going to win 1 in 5 times apparently, which is not the odds that you have. And there's so much hold in these markets anyway that when you just hold out for the bigger number.
Yeah, I think that's the thing. The 3-1 isn't representative of what we can expect. I mean, he's only won 3 times since the Players last year, right? So whether that continues or not, who the heck knows? And also at the same time, you're going to have to like caveat it with, I'm betting this in the not with Scotty Scheffler market. Like to tell your friends, yeah, I hit an outright, but it wasn't with Scotty Scheffler. It's like a little bit of a ding to your confidence there, your man card, your betting card. But I'm just kidding, Sia. It's a smart way to go about it. It just causes a bit of red tape and things like that. And at the same time, I think it's up to a lot of betting is personal preference. It's what makes you feel comfortable. It's how you see the board. And I don't have an option on either side. I'll do both if I wanted to, but I'm riding the Willie Z, Seth the Gala. Let's take him down, and then might as well throw in a Wyndham Clark finishing second to Scotty Scheffler for the 3rd time in a month. That seems very, very looming.
I wonder if you can play an exacta on that.
I'm sure you can at
straight
the
forecast. Yeah, so instead of betting Wyndham Clark, because I mean, if you bet Wyndham Clark to win without Scotty Scheffler in the field, right, Sia, you would get like 11-1, something like that.
Yep,
but you can make an exacta bet of Scotty Scheffler to beat Wyndham Clark. They finish 1-2 at 35-1.
I mean, yeah, I get it, but I mean, I when I'm betting without the Scotty Scheffler market, it's not like I'm saying it's a guarantee that Scotty Scheffler wins. So I don't know that I'd take the exacta because first of all, 35-1 isn't even that appealing for a 1-2.
No, it's not.
I thought you were going to say like 70-1.
Yeah, that's crazy. That's a really bad number.
Oh, it's a horrible number. But if you're going to take Scotty out of the market and bet someone at 11-1, I'd probably just rather play it that way at 3 times the odds.
Yeah.
Yeah. You still get to root for. Yeah. No, I see what you're saying. I'd still take the 11-1 personally. And by the way, I don't usually bet this market, but when you see what Scotty's done over the last 2 tournaments, how much he loves Texas, his course history here, which is very good, and the fact that he's such an ideal course fit. I mean, to me, this stuff is a case-by-case basis and betting preferences, just like Byron said, but the case-by-case basis here just really screams like, God, I could really see Scotty Scheffler just being extremely consistent, particularly on these greens where he usually struggles, consistent pretty much everywhere and kind of slowly running away from with this thing. And when we get to Sunday, he's 5 strokes ahead and we really have no shot at our outrights. Oh, here I am sitting here with a Wyndham Clark or a Kurt Kitayama outright without Scotty Scheffler at 11-40 or 45-1. I'm feeling pretty good about my Sunday relative to everybody else.
Outrights for you, Byron, so far?
Seth the Gala 22-1, Will Zalatoris 20-1. I was kind of keeping it simple this week. Obviously liked Wyndham Clark quite a lot, but I couldn't quite get there at that number. I might dive in on that 40. I'm seeing a 40 for the same Scotty number 1, Wyndham Clark's finishing second. So I might just ride that as a mini hedge to the Wyndham Clark world that I've been a part of the last little while and got hurt badly.
So last thing. I'm going to release the unofficial world golf rankings as decided by Pat Mayo next Thursday, I believe. That's going to drop as a show as we head into Masters season. I was kicking this around on Twitter last night, or the X Machine. Scotty is very clearly number 1, Sia. Who is the second? Who would you rank as the second best player in the world right now? And is the answer Wyndham Clark?
So I was trying to figure out, as you were asking me that question, I was trying to figure out a name that's not Wyndham Clark, because again, I am a little bit of a creature of the moment here. I'm just trying to think of who, let's just say in the last 6 months, I would put ahead of Wyndham Clark, especially when we're talking about big game hunting. I mean, we're talking PGA Tour, right?
No, we're talking, because this is a way to get all the live guys, the Euro guys all mixed into one, because here's what I don't understand. As it pertains to ranking the guys from live. Like, yeah, we know John Rahm is good. We know Brooks is good. We know DJ is good. But I also know that Rory is good. But when I released like the list, people were like scoffing at, because I had like the next 5 guys. I believe it was Rahm, Rory, not in order, just those 2 guys, along with Wyndham Clark and Brooks. Like those would be like the next 4, next 5, whatever it might be. And everyone was like, oh, I don't see how you could have Rory in there. Like, Neiman deserves to be in there. Well, Neiman can't get credit for winning live events if Rahm doesn't get credit for losing in live events every single week. Like, which one is it?
Interesting. I will say that, just to answer your question, I would put Rahm second. I would probably put Wyndham fourth behind Brooks Koepka. And I know we don't have much of a sample of Brooks Koepka lately, but those would be my top four.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, you've got only the majors, right? To compare these guys. So that would probably be a very important criteria to have, is major success, because that's the only 4 times you're going to see these guys together. So I'll throw Cam Smith in the mix as well. I think he could definitely float around, that bottom 5th, 4th, 6th spot. But I've got no qualms with Scotty or Rahm.
So with Cam Smith, this was one of it's not something that I had really considered, that outside of a 7-month stretch, I think it was Tom and Marty's, the guy who bet all the money on Carl Yuan that time, pointed out that outside of the 7-month stretch where he couldn't miss a putt, Cam Smith's like the 20th best player in the world. Like, he's not an elite guy outside of that 1-7. It's a lot like when Molinari went crazy and then he was just Molinari again. Is Cam Smith just Cam Smith again? Like, is there really that big of a difference between him and Justin Thomas?
Ooh,
those
are fighting words.
Yes, there is, because when Cam Smith has got a chance to win a tournament, he makes the putts. Doesn't go and lose 7 strokes putting in round 3 of the Valspar.
Okay. I mean, we just saw him lose in a playoff on Live, playing against the same guys with terrible performances before that so far on Live. And let's not pretend like Justin Thomas hasn't won 2 majors. It has like 16 PGA Tour wins.
Facts. That all, you got to be a fan of the history books to figure that out, though, for JT, though, unfortunately. Whereas Cam Smith, like the last thing he did, Pat, was get really good with his iron play and then go to Live. That's probably one of the biggest concerns I have for him. I think if he comes into decent form around Augusta in particular, he's going to be around the top 5 again, and then he can keep that form flowing into the other majors. I think he's actually played nicely at LACC. It was a bit of a backdoor situation, but he shows up at these majors a lot more than people imagine, especially lately.
Yeah, he ended up top 10 at both the U.S. Open and PGA Championship last year. I bet him in both of those. Like, I like Cam Smith. It's funny to think about it, that he went on this run from Century to the Open Championship and had like 3 spike putting weeks that kind of caught up to the rest of his game. Actually, he basically just had 2 spike driving and irons week that caught up to his putting game. It's like if Denny McCarthy could figure out how to drive the ball and hit an iron, all of a sudden he'd be at the top of majors. Cam Smith actually accomplished that, but it does seem like the dude can't drive the ball at all.
Hey, no. Pat, can I ask you something? Because we were just talking about like a top 4. I mean, I guess I gave out a top 4, but we're talking about top 5 and talking about Rory and, Cam Smith. I just want to point out, I'm curious where you guys are at on where you guys are at. Maybe out was a precursor to your answer here, but on Victor Hovland.
So this is interesting, because he was a name that was really thrown up. And if we had done this in September, he would have been number 3, probably. But
yes.
Yeah.
Something has very clearly happened with him. So if we're doing it, like, where do they stand right now? Like, Hovland's very clearly a top 10 player in the world, but could you in good conscience at this very moment, heading into the Masters, rank Hovland ahead of Xander, Sia?
Not really, no. I can't believe I'm saying that, but no.
I know, it's weird to think about it. But if you asked, hey, who has a better chance of winning the Masters, the answer is probably still Hovland, though, isn't it, Byron? Like, this is where these rankings get really... they're so subjective in that way that what applies to one person can apply to another person. Like, Brooks only gets credit for playing well in majors. It literally does not matter what he does in any other tournament because no one cares. But he's the only guy that applies to.
Facts. It's sticking criteria buckets to a specific set of people. And if you're looking for, I've got a Xander top 20 in all 4 major bets. Like lined up as a future, like, to me, that is the perfect. Is Xander going to win any of those? No. But is he going to likely finish top 20 in all 4 majors? Very much so, better than the 8.5 than I have. So I think it depends how you want to look at it. But I think contending and winning these things has to be a big part of it, because that's who the very best are. And, top 20, congrats, buddy. You're consistent, but you're going to just catch that Tesla award there for the non-driving vehicle that keeps you out of the wreck, but doesn't quite win it for you.
And it's funny because like Rahm obviously winning the Masters, that's still like baked in for him because he did that last year. And that's why he probably will end up number 2 on the list despite his, I don't want to say poor play in 2024, just he's had a chance to win basically every live tournament so far and has just faded on the final 4 holes. It's just not what we're used to seeing from Jon Rahm. Whereas you bring up, hey, Cam Smith had 2 top 10s at majors last year. He's still in great form. Although Rory comes second in a major, like Rory fucking sucks. Like these are the different standards that guy, but I feel like that's why Rory deserves to be 3 or 4 or whatever it is, because second is a bad finish for him. And obviously his consistency is nowhere near where it was this time last year. But I mean, the guy has won so far this year, which is more than we could say about basically everyone else who isn't Scotty Scheffler or Wyndham Clark.
True.
That's it.
Yeah.
Go for it, Sia.
For the record, I'd put Rory at 5 on the little list I just created. I'd put him at 5, which I think most people would think is like a little disrespectful to Rory. But
no,
it's
the other way. People will tell you that's too high because Rory sucks.
Okay, I'm one of those people that usually says Rory sucks, and I think I said it like 2 weeks ago, and I still put him at 5.
Yeah, see, that's the like he's become a really polarizing player because he hasn't won a major in a decade. But he has probably been, outside of Scheffler, Byron, the most consistent player in majors to be on the leaderboard.
Yes, that's exactly it. And I think you could even rank Rory second or first-ish as the calendar year rolls by April. There's a certain event that happens in early April that I think can really throw Rory's groove off of, and it kind of weighs him down more than I think we really imagine. So once Augusta's rolled by, I think we can expect Rory to really blossom like an azalea once he's left the premises.
Well, we'll see if he can get it back at Valhalla this year. Maybe the sun will start coming down again. Phil and Ricky won't be able to see their ball, and all of a sudden Rory can just win a major. And then all of a sudden, like if he wins a major, it's like, hey, of course he's the best. Like that's how it will shift so positively for him, because if it's not a win, it goes horrible. If it is a win, it's the greatest thing that ever happened. There's really like no in between with him and how at least the golf public perceives it, people that pay attention to this stuff. Anyway, I've been having a lot of fun trying to rank these guys, and I look forward to all of the blowback it's going to cause on me.
Great piece, Pat. It's going to be awesome watching that come out.
Doug Gim,
I'm
number
still
8.
getting blowback from not including Veep and New Girl in the sitcom bracket. I can't imagine the blowback you're going to get for years to come.
All right, rotoballer.com. You can find Byron's work. What is the code over at Rotoballer if people want to go sign up?
Yep, Maniac will get you 10% off over there. Back 9 Bets, my YouTube channel, will also give you all of those codes as you need them. All my articles will be coming out today, tomorrow, as we kind of line up for the week. So happy to be on the show again, Pat. Thanks for having me. Good to see you again, Sia. Let's have a great week, man.
Yeah, let's hit some winners. Sia, you're on every single weekday on the televisions, aren't you?
I am. Yeah, I host a show with Meg McDonald on Monumental Sports Network in the DC, Maryland, Virginia area, 5:30, covering all sports betting angles. And then, of course, I host the Early Edge at 10 o'clock every Monday through Friday, which is a really cool betting show we do every single morning on the Sportsline YouTube channel.
All right. I'm Pat Mayo. You can follow me at the PME on Twitter. Sub to the newsletter for all. The course preview is up right now. It's all completely free. And you can be sure that I'll have all of the updates coming on Wednesday evening with the weather, the DraftKings ownership, all the final plays, and any news and notes that I can pass along to you. So please do me a favor and go do that. Do me a favor and sign up for Underdog right now using code Mayo. That helps fuel the show and everything that we can do. So if you have not signed up for Underdog yet, and you can, which you basically can't anywhere except for like Ontario or Michigan or weird places like that. You can play in the Pat Mayo Experience Classic draft that will come out as soon as tee times come out. But you can fuel that up for me using code Mayo, getting a $100 first-time match deposit. So deposit $100, get up to $200 on that. FantasyNational.com/Mayo will get you 20% off and give you access to the brand new leaderboard app that people are enjoying very much, they have said. All right? Smash a like on the way out. I'm Pat Mayo. I'll see you next time.
Mayo Experience!